Find the inverse of f of x equals radical 2x minus 1 plus 3. Alright, so in order to find the equation of the inverse, we're going to have to do 4 steps here, right? The first step says, let's replace f of x with y. So we get y equals radical 2x minus 1 plus 3. The second step says, every y becomes an x, and every x becomes a y here. Okay, so we'll replace that y with an x, and then we'll replace that x with a y. And the key step is the third step, right? Now we want to solve for y. Okay, we want to get y by itself. Okay, so here's a little bit of algebra, right? I'm going to subtract 3 to both sides. Okay, so I get x minus 3 equals radical 2y minus 1. And now here's the key step. We want to take the square of both sides. Okay, we got to sort of get rid of this radical here. So I'm going to square both sides. So I get x minus 3 squared equals 2y minus 1. Okay, so now we got to add 1 to both sides. So first of all, let me just switch these sides around. Okay, let me get the y on the left. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides. So we get x minus 3 squared plus 1. I'm going to add the 1 here. And now finally, I'm going to divide everything by 2. So y is going to equal x minus 3 squared plus 1 all over 2. Okay? And then the fourth step, or the last step, you don't really need to do this, right? But this is our inverse function. Okay? So everything that we've just done, okay, we've found the equation of the inverse. Okay? Now, what is the domain of this function here, right? The domain, so here for f of x, right? The domain is going to be 1/2 to infinity, right? We can plug in any value as long as it's bigger than 1/2, okay? And then we should be able to sort of, I don't know, solve this or get an answer, right? Okay. We know that radicals cannot be negative, right? So as long as we plug in an x value that equals 1/2 or greater, then we should be able to get an answer, right? We're not going to get a negative radical. The range of this function is going to be 3 to infinity, okay? Because of this plus 3, right? This essentially shifts up 3 units, okay? And then that'll be the range. So what does that mean for the inverse function? For the inverse function then, right, the domain should be 3 to infinity. Okay? And the range should be switched, right? It should be 1/2 to infinity. Okay? Now you're probably looking at this and saying, well, wait a minute, this is just a quadratic function, right? I should be able to plug in any number I want, right? I mean, I can plug in 0 and work this out. I can plug in like -3 in here, work it out and get an answer, right? But remember, the key is that this is the square root function, okay? So along the same lines, we can't take the negative values here, okay? So that's why essentially we are restricting the domain of this guy, right? In order to make it have an inverse.